Welcome back. This is part 9 of 16 parts of the Citizens Policy Center training. In this one, Allie and Patrick will finish up the quick quote and get ready to submit an application. It's brought to you by Specialty Insurance Agents of Florida. Visit them at siaof.com. This lesson was brought to you by Affinity Insurance Agency, so you be sure to contact them before you renew your E&O insurance.
Now you'll notice that the system has given us several more eligibility questions now. We are in the general underwriting questions, and you'll notice that these look very familiar. They should look very close to what you are used to seeing in EPAS. As we go through, the system takes a moment to think about things, and it will not let you create an answer for another question until it registers the answers that you've already given there. And as we go through, we're reading the questions and we're making sure that we are answering them correctly and answering them the way that the system would be expecting them. So as I answer all those questions, I'm now going to click over to the Hazards tab and answer the questions here. Now these are going to be liability hazards that may or may not be there at the location. So this particular insured doesn't have any of these liability hazards like a bicycle ramp or inoperable motor vehicles not secured in a garage, the old car up on blocks. As I click additional information, now we start to see questions about foreclosures and 1,500 feet of salt water and the like, to make sure that we answer all of those questions the way that the system's expecting. Now I'm going to click next, and the system came back with a stop. We mentioned before that these yellow information sections give us a warning or an error or something that the system wants to communicate to us. And before, if it was a red arrow, remember that's a hard stop that will keep you from moving forward at all. This is not a red arrow. This is a yellow triangle with an exclamation point. It's not a hard stop, but it is telling you that we answered a question in a way that says this is not going to be eligible for coverage, and maybe you need to fix this, maybe you didn't see it right, or maybe you meant to answer that question in that way. So I wasn't paying as much attention as I ought to, and I just clicked no on that one answer. So I'm going to click the general link here and find that question that I answered. Is a property readily accessible year-round to firefighting equipment? Well, of course it is. So I'm going to click yes and try the next button this time, and it let me through. Back to the policy info screen, which we've seen before. And on the policy info screen, again, we can verify the first named insured, and we can now we can add additional information about that named insured: occupation, date of birth, social security number. You'll notice that those are not considered required entries, so we don't have to worry about them. We've got the policy mailing address, and we also have the option here to add an additional named insured right here by clicking add and add new person. This is going to be a spouse or someone else who's got an interest in the dwelling there. On the right-hand side, we're going to see that this is a PLA account, HO4 policy with the effective date. And now, before it asked us, do we want to apply the no prior insurance surcharge, now it's asking, when did you purchase or lease this property? Since it's a brand new lease, we're going to say it was leased today. And now I have an option here to add whether or not there's been prior losses on this particular property, yes or no. If I click yes, looking at the bottom of the screen, we've got a new tab that shows up, a prior losses tab. We will need to add any of those losses that we said that there have been in this tab. So if we've said that yes, there have been losses, we need to add all the pertinent information here to continue to go forward. For now, we're going to say no, there have been no prior losses, since this is a new purchase, a new lease. We also have to answer now on prior policy information. Have you had multi-peril insurance within the last 12 months? Well, if I select yes there, then it gives us the opportunity to add that carrier information to get to And you'll notice now that there's a great deal more property information that the system pulled over from GIS, allowing us to properly write this account. A couple of items that are going to need to be filled out here. On the right-hand side, after it goes protection class, distance from fire station, we need to know what's the distance from a fire hydrant. I'm going to say 500 feet, and yes, this risk is within city limits. I also have information from the flood details section. It pulled over that this is in a flood zone X, which is not a special hazard flood zone, so there's no requirement to have flood insurance, but we'd still like an answer. Is there flood insurance, yes or no? Have they been applied for? Has there been a flood waiver? Since there's no requirement to have flood insurance, we're just going to select no and be done with that. And since there's nothing else to add on this screen, I'm going to click the Next button. Brings us to the Coverages tab, which gives us an opportunity to make any changes that we needed to make, or we can keep with those coverages information that we already added to the policy on the front end in the quick quote, so I can click Next to move to the next screen, which is the dwelling details. So this is where we're going to start to add information such as the date occupied. And since our lease was signed today, we're going to say 10/27/14. We had a dwelling. Number of families, 1 family. No borders. And it's tenant occupied, which is what we would expect for this HO4. Not eligible for coverage in Citizens Personal Lines policies. So we're going to answer no there. This is also where, if we had a mortgage holder, we would add that under this additional interests tab. If there were a mortgage, if the mortgage holder were in the address book, we'd simply click Add from Address Book and enter the company name. And since I think we've got some test companies here, let's see if we can find one in our system. Doesn't like that. That's got plenty of results. So you can see that we could get that result tuned down some. Let's see if we can get that. Since there's more than 100 results, I'm going to click Reset and go back to my dwelling. That would be where you would add that additional interest from the address book. Back to the details, and since everything is complete on this screen, we'll click Next to move to our Construction tab, which where we've already put some information. The system's going to ask for just a little bit more here. What floor is the unit located on? Well, it's a single-story dwelling. 1,500 total square foot. No, it's not. The primary heat source is not portable. There's no open flame. And more construction details. Is there any unacceptable plumbing? We're going to say none, and we're going to say none of the above for hazardous electrical wiring. And more than 100 amp coverage. The wind loss mitigation information is already populated. And this, if we needed to make any changes here, say there was something we found out going from the quick quote to the submission, we could click this Reset button and then re-enter the wind loss mitigation information. You cannot change it here without clicking the Reset button. So I'm going to click Next, taking us to the next screen, which is Risk Analysis. No issues have been identified. And I'm going to click the next button again, taking us to the Policy Review screen. This is an opportunity to review with the insured, the first named insured, policy mailing address, the property mailing address, effective date, and the coverage limits that we've selected. If everything here is correct, I'm going to go ahead and click the Premium Estimate button to get to the Premium Estimate screen. The first thing that now happens is the system tells us, wait, you didn't enter all the information in. You'll notice, again, these are not the hard stops. They're not the red arrows. The system's asking for date of birth, social security number, and occupation. We do not require that. The system does not require it. It's just asking because it's not been filled out. And if I click premium estimate again, it will let me move on to the next screen. And so here's our premium estimate again. You'll notice that our status has gone to submission premium estimated. And the quote number that we had is now a submission number. And all of our information is there now that we can take a look at our policy now that there's a premium estimate. Again, if we needed to make any changes, we could edit transaction. We could still version here if we wanted to. We've now got a new button, request approval. And I'm going to come back to that button. I don't want to press that yet. But before I go any further on this page, I want to go to the print options. And now I've got the option not just to print an estimate in the worksheet, but to print the full application. This is where you will go to get the full application, again, in a PDF file so that you can print that out, you can save it. I'm going to show you the full application.